Go ahead and extend this warning out now to southwestern portions of Beauregard Parish. This is a confirmed tornado according to the National Weather Service. This is not radar indicated, so with this you need to go ahead and make sure you're in a safe area away from windows. Now if there's anything good about this, it's a very rural area. Now there are a few folks that live out here, so we don't want to discount that, but this is right along the Sabine River basin, really west of Old River Road, west of 109. Not a lot of streets here. There are some dead-end roads here for people that live out near the Sabine River. Areas about as far west as you can get in Calcasieu Parish right now. We're talking about Alligator Park Road, Fountain Cemetery Road, and those areas, again, west of LA 109, near the Sabine River. So there's not a lot of homes here, but there are certainly some folks who do live out in these areas, and particularly concerning would be folks who live in mobile homes and not a sturdy structure, because with this being a confirmed tornado, we know there's one on the ground, and you've got to take those precautions now to get to your safe place. We don't always have confirmed tornadoes when we have tornado warnings. Sometimes they're radar indicated, and they don't always touch down, but this is a confirmed tornado, so this is a very serious situation for folks who live in and near the Starks area, west of LA 109 now, where that rotation is located. It's going to be moving almost parallel to Highway 109 or just west of it, and eventually crossing LA 109. So if you're traveling, you definitely want to be off those roads right now between Starks and Fields, because that is where this tornado, this confirmed tornado, will be crossing. Really, it looks like as it moves up closer to the Beauregard Parish line is about the location of where it will be crossing, if not just a little bit south of there, Highway 109. So again, this is going to be crossing a state highway here shortly, and will be up into areas of southwestern Beauregard Parish. Now, I've had a few folks, I've been looking at the live stream as well. I think you're in front of my live stream on this phone. Yeah, there we go. That's probably a better shot. Wondering about the rest of Calcasieu Parish. Where is this going? Is Lake Charles included? No, Lake Charles is not included. Now, that said, Lake Charles is not out of the woods. We still have a long way to go over the next few hours, because number one, these storms are moving east, and there is a nasty squall line that is still pushing toward Beaumont. So they're going to get the 1-2 punch over in southeast Texas first. Now, if there's anything good currently along that squall line, we have no tornado warnings, but that said, there could be anything spin up at any time along this line. We're concerned about these little individual, and I talked about this morning on the news, these individual discrete supercell thunderstorms that form out ahead of it. These are the ones that are causing us the problems right now. This is actually not directly associated with that squall line. So as we move through time, again, this one is the one in particular concern for our area, but this particular cell does not have any threats to Lake Charles, really into Moss Bluff. It's going to be in rural areas of northwestern Calcasieu Parish, which is where we are seeing, again, the tornado that has been confirmed. Again, this has been a nasty cell. It started off out over the Gulf of Mexico and moved into southeast Texas, and was a very, very violent storm as it moved all the way up from near areas south of, we're really close to the Nederland area. Then it tracked all the way up near Orange and Vidor, and it's all the way now up into northwestern Calcasieu Parish. So this storm has had a history of damage, and again, we are reading the latest on this warning from the National Weather Service, and I'll put this up, this newest one. Like I said, if you got that warning out on your KPLC weather app for Beauregard Parish, it's going to be for you folks who live really south of Bancroft, along Highway 109. All those roads along and west of 109 are at most risk of seeing this, but it does include some locations east of 109 if you live out along Paul Johnson Road. A lot of these are just mostly driveways to people's homes, most likely, but Roy Ashworth Road, also if you're down close to, looks like, having a hard time here, Barrow Loop, but that's one of those. Ernest Clark Road, we're also seeing that again. So any of these locations along and near Highway 109, again, tornado on the ground just to the northwest of Starks. And right now, like we mentioned earlier, and Jacob's been pointing this out as well, the rotation has been kind of cycling, but we also have indications that this is what we call a multiple vortex tornado. So there may be more than one area of rotation that we're looking at with this storm. So that's one of the concerns is that we have. We drive the radar, we look at these products, and I'm not sure if the microphone is already on. It is. Okay, I'm going to switch mics here. I can give Jacob his back. He's fishing, or what we call the debris tracker, and that too may be a little bit contaminated with rain. We have a lot of rain, so that's one of the things we also just mentioned, was that you're not going to be able to see this tornado because of the fact that it's rain wrapped. Another thing here is where this storm is located, there may not be a lot of trees in this area. This is the basin for the Sabine River, so we can't really necessarily go off of the debris detector at this point with any complete accuracy of where this thing could be or if it's still on the ground. So we have to take it as if this is still on the ground. Do we have anything new in the chat, Jacob?
Yeah, this just in from the spotter that is over in the Starks community, 1 mile north of Starks. A new area of rotation beginning to take shape about 2 miles to my west. Rotation is very rapid, so it's indicating that we are getting that tornado to probably cycle. It kind of briefly weakened, maybe it lifted, which is good news, and hopefully we can keep it that way, but a new wall cloud looks to be forming, and there it is, as meteorologist Ben Terry has been talking about there, to the north of Starks. He's probably right there along Highway 109, I would imagine, probably riding to the north, trying to keep a good eye on this. But right in this area right here, a new wall cloud beginning to take shape. Not saying there's a tornado on the ground at the moment. That did not say that with the latest report from the spotter, but what happens with these storms is they're kind of cyclical. That's what we call them. So they'll pulse up, they'll produce a long track tornado, then they may cut themselves off in terms of that circulation and then form a new one. And that's what's happening right now just to the north of Starks, right there along Highway 109. This is where you need to be in your safe place right now. Old River Road back towards Gibson Road. This is the area that we're now becoming most concerned about. Still a good area of rotation, and still some broad rotation back towards the west, to the north of Deweyville there along the Sabine River. Still good rotation there as well, so kind of watching two areas. But as you can see, it moved through Deweyville, kind of spread out just a little bit, but now beginning to see that rotation building once again. Not nearly as tight as what it once was, but we're going to have to keep a very close eye on this. Of course, that tornado warning going until 10:45 this morning. That includes the northwestern sections of Calcasieu as well as Beauregard. So if you're looking at these, if you're looking at this from downtown Lake Charles or back off towards the east, things are okay right now. But the major concern area that we have right now is with this particular storm, supercell that is continuing to push through the Starks community. Very heavy rainfall there. Once again, as Ben was mentioning, don't try to go out there and see it. It's not going to be something you want to see, and it's definitely not very safe to do so. This is why you need to be in your most interior part of your room. Hallway, closet till 10:45 this morning. That does include Lunita as well as back towards Wardline Road along Highway 109 there, just north of Starks. Right in this general area right here is the area that we're going to become a little bit more concerned about. It's got that kink feature back into it. If you live basically right along Highway 109 now, beginning to push towards the east, towards Green Island Road, just to the north of Starks. Old River Road, very heavy rain. That's basically right where that tornadic circulation is sitting as you lift off towards the North Best Ranch Road, over towards Willie Hyatt Road. There's the latest in terms of the wind and the velocity. Still showing signs of broad rotation there. That's at least some positive news. It's broad at the moment, but that doesn't mean that it won't spin up very quickly. Still 65-mile-per-hour winds there. The shear on the backside, not quite as impressive, so not nearly the 130 to, say, 140 that we saw when it was back across the eastern portions of Texas, but I did see we got a new update, local storm report. This was 4 miles southeast of Mauriceville, reported a tornado. That was at 9:46, multiple damage reports, so this is a very, very dangerous storm that we're dealing with right now. You can see where it has had the history of producing a tornado back across eastern sections of Texas. Mauriceville back towards Bridge City. Still multiple damage reports coming out of Mauriceville. That's where that storm moved over, and we've been tracking this for about the last hour, and meteorologist Ben Terry was tracking it all morning on Sunrise and the Fox Show. And that's where this storm is basically located right now. It's moved across portions of eastern Texas, and now it's moving into northern sections of Calcasieu as well as southern sections of Beauregard. Still a pretty well-defined hook there just to the north of Starks, right there along Highway 109. If you live in Starks, the circulation is lifting off towards the north. You'll see how it's been progressing. So basically moving to the northeast at about 30, but we can't let our guard down back towards the west. We still have that squall line that's going to be coming through.
And these are kind of morphing too. If you look at earlier, we had more of these discrete cells, or what started off as just individual supercell thunderstorms. This was about 9:21 when things were moving through through southeast Texas, but if you'll take a look at where things are now, a little more linear now. Everything's sort of lined up here, and that can sometimes be good in that these thunderstorms start robbing the atmosphere around where these are moving of some of the energy. Now, that's not to say we can't still see something spin up. Obviously, we got that report in the chat there from someone who was seeing some rotation earlier, tightening up north of Starks. But when you see things becoming a little linear and a little less discrete in the sense of a compact storm, sometimes that can be better. Now, on the flip side, when you start getting features like this, and especially with what we start looking at back toward the west here with this squall line, it can be more difficult sometimes to be able to spot tornadoes on radar, just because you start getting more of the contamination from the rain and things like that start coming back in the storm, and it becomes a little less hard for us to be able to see with any distinction. But when you start still having velocity signatures like we're seeing right now on the storm, yes, the velocity may be a little less tight, meaning that the rotation around this storm not quite as tightly compact, but there is still, obviously, you're looking at this from the Lake Charles radar where you see the greens here, and just to kind of put you radar 101 where you're looking at here, where you see the greens, that's wind that is blowing away from the radar beam, which is down at the Lake Charles airport. So where you see that beam going around, that's where the radar site is located. It sends out energy into the atmosphere, measures wind direction and wind speed, and when you see greens like you're seeing right now, that's winds that are blowing toward the radar. In a small area, you have winds that are also blowing away from the radar. So when you get this type of indication, it doesn't always mean that we're talking about a tornado on the ground, but it shows that we have a rotating storm. You put that with some of these reports that we are getting now from viewers and from the National Weather Service that this storm has had a history of producing damage, confirmed tornadoes. At one point, we even had a multiple vortex tornado with this cell. Obviously, you start heightening up the seriousness of this situation. So if there's anything good, maybe the storm is cycling down a bit now as we head into the 10:23, 10:25 portion of this morning, which is what we want to see. But that does not necessarily mean, Jacob, and you mentioned this as well, that this is over, because these storms have been cyclical all morning with the rotation around them. This most likely did not stay on the ground from the point the storm developed. It most likely has picked itself up, redeveloped over a good chunk of real estate from southeast Texas now up into northwestern Calcasieu Parish. It's about to be getting ready to cross over into southwestern Beauregard. This is where we talked earlier, too, about where this would be crossing LA 109, and it's going to be right along the Calcasieu and Beauregard Parish line that we are seeing. Okay, so my microphone apparently keeps cutting out, so let me see if I can move it around a bit. You know, where this would be crossing Highway 109, you guys in the back can just text us again if we're having problems with the microphone and let us know what's going on here. So let's go ahead and head back over to Jacob now, because I'm having some microphone issues. We're working with wireless mics here, and sometimes when we pull in new ones, they don't always have the range that our weather mic has. So Jacob, take it back over, and we'll try to get that fixed.
Yeah, that tornado warning once again going until 10:45 this morning. This is for western Calcasieu as well as southern portions of Beauregard, just north of Starks. Now, as Ben was mentioning, kind of cyclical, and if you'll pop up those velocities one more time, Ben, I was noticing something back towards the west, just a little bit along this same line, and we'll see if it still looks like it, but maybe a little bit of broad rotation back to the north of Mauriceville once again. Potentially, it definitely doesn't look nearly as strong as what it was just a few moments ago, but definitely looks like there could have been some brief spin-ups there across the area. And then, but the main concern right now, you can see kind of over the last couple of frames there, but definitely a lot more broad rotation there across the northwestern sections of Calcasieu. But we may be getting a little bit of another spin up there right along Highway 109 there that we're dealing with, that we could be dealing with a potential tornado still on the ground. So that's why we need to take this very seriously. This goes until 10:45 this morning, right there along Highway 109. That's the area that we're most concerned about. I'm going to step off and see if we've got any new updates from the National Weather Service, which they haven't, but they're still reporting 4 miles south-southwest of Deweyville. They had the tornado, so that was about 15-20 minutes ago when it was moving to the south of Deweyville, but now that's off towards the north. If you live in Deweyville, you're outside of that tornado warning. No issues across the eastern sections of eastern Texas as of now. This is our main concern, though. And as we've been talking about, they're very cyclical in nature, so they may kind of spin down just a little bit, kind of dissipate, and then quickly spin back up once again. And right now, looks to be some broad rotation back to the north and west of Starks, maybe a little bit tighter rotation, though, right there along Highway 109. So we'll see how that plays out over the course of the next few scans. But if you live in Starks, you still need to be in your safe place, at least for the next little bit. Now, most of it's still lifting off towards the north, but you can see very strong winds, very choppy waters there, as it continues to be very, very breezy out there. But a live look on the South Lake Charles Skycam. Still lots of cloud cover out there as well. You're not going to see this coming. Don't try to go out there and see it. Send us reports once it's safe. And, of course, we'll let you know when that time is. But we still got that main squall line that's kind of pushed through, too. And as Ben was alluding to, we still may have some brief spin-ups today that we'll be tracking. Now, whether or not they'll be long-lived, that's something we'll have to see. But right now, it doesn't look to be any tornado warnings on that main line right now, which is good news. But still, very dark, ominous skies off in the distance. This is looking back more towards the west. Looking towards the west exactly now, back towards the Sulphur vicinity, zooming back closer to the I-210 bridge there. So at least that's some good news. Ben, do you have any updates?
Yeah, we were looking at this. Hopefully the mic's working, so let me know, guys, in the back. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you in the IFB. Yeah, so
Mic 1 is what it's
Ben's on mic 1, guys, in the back if you can hear him, but still lots of low clouds out there, lots of heavy rain, and that's why we're going to continue to be watching this potential tornado, and at least for the next couple of hours. Now, we do have a tornado watch. I'll reiterate that until 4 o'clock this afternoon. That will go for all of southwest Louisiana. Now, I don't think we'll be dealing with the severe weather until 4 o'clock. I think most of it comes to an end, say, 2, 3 o'clock, which would be good news for us. Hopefully, that trend will continue, but here is the latest on the tornado watch for Vernon, Beauregard, Allen, Calcasieu, Jeff Davis, and Cameron. You can also see back towards the west there are a couple of open spots. Hopefully, that's them dropping that tornado watch as that line pushes through. Once that line pushes through, good news is that we're going to be doing some good news. So, Ben, they said all mics are now open 1 through 4. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. All right, yeah, we were just talking, I was going back to that Skycam view, and, sometimes you look at radar and you can see things, and it's great, but when you can really just take a look at what's happening in the atmosphere here, when you see those low clouds moving along, that shows that we have a very, very strong low-level jet stream. That's the winds that are in the lower levels of the atmosphere, and what that does is it mixes with winds aloft or winds higher up in the atmosphere that are coming in at a different direction, and that's what gives us that rotation or that rotating column of air in the horizontal. So what happens here is you get that to bend down to the surface, and that's where you get these tornadoes that occur. And that's what we are seeing. The atmosphere right now is very ripe for these rotating storms. And, right now we're looking at Lake Charles, or we're actually looking toward the west here from the South Lake Charles Skycam. And still, what is a relatively untapped atmosphere? We haven't really had much going on this far to the east yet, but I'll pan the camera a little bit up higher, and you can see those low bases with those clouds. And so, again, that shows just what's going on in the atmosphere as a whole and sort of the ingredients that are all coming into play today ahead of these thunderstorms that are still going to eventually move into the Lake Charles area. So, again, we'll take a look at where we currently have the warnings. Again, we've been on the air for quite a while now because this has been a long track violent tornado that we've been looking at since its genesis earlier before 10 o'clock this morning over into southeast Texas. And when we got that wording that this was producing a multiple vortex violent tornado at one point over southeast Texas, again, that had us concerned. Now, Jacob, I haven't seen any reports of damage yet from Calcasieu Parish as the storm was moving, and if that changes, let me know. You got the National Weather Service chat over. This is a very sparsely populated area of Calcasieu Parish, meaning that there's just not a lot out here. When you move west of 109, there are a few rural roads, but short of some eyewitness reports, there's just not a whole lot going on in this particular part of the parish. Obviously, this is a very rural portion of our viewing area, so that just may be one of the problems that we see, challenges that we are getting these reports in few and far between. Now, we know there are some spotters and chasers out this direction as well, so if we hear of any damage reports, we'll let you know about them as they come into our newsroom. But the National Weather Service, again, doing a very good job sort of trimming back this polygon, this warning box in the red here. And I'll take the radar also. You can actually see the locations that are included in this. And if you have our KPLC weather app downloaded and you're using it, you only get the warning out if you're inside these areas that are in the warning. So if you're in Beauregard Parish and if you live, say, even in fields, you're not in that polygon, so your app most likely did not tell you that you're under a tornado warning. That's how much better we've gotten with the warning system here with severe weather. Inside this red box anywhere, though, if you've got our weather app, you should have received that tornado warning. And again, that's for a rural portion of northern Calcasieu Parish and rural southwestern Beauregard Parish. It does not at this point include DeQuincy, and at this point, the polygon is not including the Bancroft area, or Bancroft proper, nor is it including areas like Singer or anywhere to the north. But this is a storm that we'll have to keep an eye on as it does track toward the north, because there may be some areas, again, extended in this warning if it does show more cycling, maybe perhaps back up a bit more as it tracks to the north. And that's one of the things the National Weather Service will be looking at as well. The history of the storm, what's happened with its development stages and how it's redeveloped. But I will say, just within the past couple of scans here, looking at it on velocity, and I'll throw up the correlation product as well, the debris detection, not seeing anything here that shows us any indication of debris being lofted in the air as compared to earlier. This was a new product that we got just a few years ago when they upgraded the National Weather Service Doppler radars with what they call the dual polarization. And what it allows it to do is it not only receives indications of things in the horizontal field of the atmosphere, but it also detects things in the vertical. And that allows the radar to actually start putting those algorithms together and showing where things like tree branches get lofted. It actually detects that and points out those differences of things that may be outside of a rain droplet. So that's why we were able to show this new product. And earlier, we had a very clear signature, and I'll go back to about 9:58. This was the debris product over the Hartburg area. Again, tornado was on the ground at that point. It moved its way toward Deweyville and started becoming a little more diffuse, a little less clear that it was actually still producing debris signature, meaning that at that point, and this may be where we had the multiple vortex, it looked like there were two areas there of correlation close by. Then things became a little less clear as it moved into Calcasieu Parish. We kind of lost that debris detection as it moved its way towards Starks, which could have been a sign at that point that the cell was weakening. And again, that's why at this point we haven't received any damage reports from Calcasieu Parish. But as it's moved its way now up closer to Beauregard, we're clearly not seeing any sort of debris being lofted, at least not by this product from the Lake Charles radar. So again, that's a good sign that hopefully this is not currently still on the ground, but we can't always know that with certainty. Of course, this warning is out for about another 12 minutes or so. This goes until 10:45, and again, it includes a very small corridor here of Calcasieu and Beauregard parishes, basically in the warning at this point. And we'll put this back on velocity again and see if anything looks like it's updated. There's still some loose rotation. When you start seeing the pinks and reds and greens become a bit more separated like we're seeing now, it's a good sign that maybe at this point the cell or the storm itself may be in that downward phase of cycling out of what was a very intense supercell storm earlier. But we are still seeing some rotation, couple it possible. If nothing else, you're probably seeing at that point, well, it's rain wrapped, but if you could see the clouds, certainly some rotation aloft for sure with this above the ground level. But if you live anywhere around Barrow Loop, Highway 109 into Beauregard Parish now, Smith Cemetery Road, up toward Paul Johnson Road, really anywhere right along 109, you don't want to be traveling between Starks and Fields, because that is where this possible tornado is crossing at this point as it's now into Beauregard Parish. I know this is a rural area, but folks do live out in this portion of the parish. So if you're anywhere traveling, maybe you have some errands you're needing to run, maybe you're heading from Starks north on 109, if you could put that off for another hour or so and let this storm pass, you're going to be better off, because this, again, is a dangerous storm. It's had a history of producing a confirmed tornado earlier, but like I said, all signs are pointing to, at this point, hopefully that is not the case at this particular moment. Let's back out and kind of reset for you what we have going on across the region as a whole. We still have that squall line. We call it a squall line. That's a meteorological term for a line of strong thunderstorms that's moving into the Beaumont area. And this is what we looked at as well if you were watching our forecast earlier today. And we talked about the primary concern with this would be the damaging winds. But you can also get spin-up tornadoes. Right now, there's a flash flood warning out for the Beaumont metro area. They've actually issued that, and now they've just issued a new severe thunderstorm warning, because what we're seeing here along this line of thunderstorms are these little notches, and I'll kind of draw a few of them here, and you can kind of actually see them where the lines, sort of the little appendages stick out, and where you get those, every now and then you can get little tiny, almost micro scale like gust fronts that develop. Those can sometimes spin up tornadoes with very little notice, and those are very hard to detect on radar because they happen quickly. A lot of times before the radar beam has a chance to sample the atmosphere at that given point, and you can get these little spin up tornadoes that occur and cause some damage. That said, they issued a severe thunderstorm warning out along this line. This all still has to move into southwest Louisiana over the course of the next couple of hours, and that's why I'm pointing it out. Beaumont's not in our viewing area, but all of this is moving towards southwest Louisiana, and was the area that tornadic storm started at. And that's why I wanted to show you that we've still got a ways to go before we're going to be able to say that we're in the clear here in southwest Louisiana. Of course, obviously, we're not going to continue to break into all of your programming if the situation does not warrant. But we do have currently still some active tornado warnings out for the viewing area, and until that is in the clear, we're going to stay with you here for a few more minutes. Jacob?
Yeah, as Ben was alluding to, there is some good news with the latest update from the National Weather Service. They're now saying it's not confirmed. It's more radar indicated, which would go along with what we're seeing kind of there on the radar, with it being more broad scale in rotation, but still moving to the northeast at 20 miles per hour. This storm was located near Lunita, or 7 miles north of Starks, moving to the northeast at 20 miles per hour. So it is a little bit slower than what we were tracking. Of course, a few moments ago, it was moving at 30, so not a whole lot, but still, nonetheless. But you can definitely see there's still some areas of broad rotation out there, and we're going to have to continue to track this. The storm's kind of been a pest for us all morning long. As it's moved back towards the northwest, it's kind of cycled. At one moment, it may be showing great signs of rotation, a very strong couplet. Others, not so much like it is kind of right now, but there's still a little bit of an appendage there. Once again, don't try to go out there and see anything. It's going to be rain-wrapped, and if there is one on the ground, then of course it's going to be moving very quickly off towards the north, and it could cause a lot of damage. Still quite a bit of lightning with that, and we'll even watch the storms back off towards the west. There was some positive news in the fact that these storms are moving through ahead of the main line, so that's kind of taking away some of that energy for us, maybe that we could see through the afternoon. But notice a big line of showers and storms continue to push its way through. Severe thunderstorm warning until 11:30 there for the Beaumont area. That's for winds upwards of 60 miles per hour. They didn't tag tornado in it, but it definitely could be something that we'd have to watch. But with that tornado warning itself, we'll go back and take a look at those velocities. Just make sure nothing looks anything out of the ordinary out there. But nonetheless, a very potent line of showers and storms going to make their way across. And once this gets through, I promise you, the weather's going to turn much nicer. As you can see, very clear back from Waco back towards Austin, San Antonio, no rain there. And once it clears through Houston, then we'll probably have about 2 to say 3 hours worth of rain across our area. Could pick up a quick 1 to 2 inches of rain, and then we'll begin to kind of quieten things down pretty quickly after that. And once that line pushes through, once this initial line pushes through, even with this heavier rain back towards the west, the good news is things are going to remain much quieter. But we do have that tornado warning that goes out for about another 5 minutes. I'll be interested to see if they go ahead and extend that for us. Hopefully they'll come out with something. If they do, here within the next little bit. They're watching it very closely there at the National Weather Service there at the airport here in Lake Charles. But nonetheless, lots of lightning associated with this, so don't go outside. It's going to be very electrical. Lots of heavy rainfall as well. Here's a look at the Beaumont sky cam. This is looking back. Currently, temperature sitting. We still got plenty of traffic moving along I-10. Things moving a lot better. We took a look at this about half an hour or so ago, and torrential downpours, but thankfully right now this is the line that we're watching. Not seeing any lowerings or anything like that, but very gusty winds going to be pushing into the area coming up over the course of the next, say, half hour to an hour. So that's something we're going to be tracking very closely as well.
Orange.
To continue to see, this is Orange, Texas now. The wind still moving very fast aloft. That's pushing into the area. So that's something that we're going to have to watch. A lot of wind shear going on out there, and that's why we've got these spin-ups continuing to go on. But at least some lighter skies out there. That's some good news. You can see the power lines shaking, so wind's definitely very breezy there. But main concern right now still that tornado warning for at least another 5 minutes or so. Now there's the new tornado warning now out until 11:15. So they did go ahead and issue it for areas farther to the north now. So we're going to be on here just a little bit longer until 11:15. Now, we just took a look at the wide scale things. If you live in Jeff Davis, Allen, as well as portions of Vernon and Cameron, you're in the clear right now. And if you live basically across all of Calcasieu, we're now in the clear, at least from the tornado part of this. But
if you want to, Jacob, I'll read the text on that new warning from the Weather Service. It says that this new warning is out for southwestern Beauregard until 11:15 at 10:39. Tornado-producing storm was located southwest of Fields, moving northeast at 20. And they're saying that this is a radar-confirmed tornado, according to this latest. And they're saying that that storm will be near Fields and Bancroft by 11 o'clock and by Bivens around 11:15. And in their tag, they put to repeat, a tornado is on the ground. Take cover now. Move into an interior room if you're in that area. So again, until 11:15, and they're saying it's going to be near the Fields area and Bancroft by 11 o'clock, and then near Bivens by 11:15. And that's for that same cell that we were looking at earlier. So again, now that's moving toward the northeast at 20. So we'll try to put a track on here for you. I'll send it back over to Jacob, and he'll talk a little bit more while I get that. But again, still a storm that may be cycling, Jacob.
Yeah, Ben, I'm looking at the velocities there on Max 2. We pull those up just briefly for a moment. It looks like they've kind of spiked once again right near the Fields community, as Ben was mentioning. Not seeing, it's not as well defined as what we were seeing, but it's right there along the symbol of Highway 109 there. So right here, just north of Barrow Loop. And I saw that we were messaging, been checking the messages as well. A caller called in, so there may have been a brief touchdown near Bigwood Cemetery. That was back towards the south. That was back near the Starks community. We'll see if anything gets changed out of that. Of course, if you have any damage reports from back towards the Starks community and it's safe to do so, then please just let us know. But right now, if you live in southern portions of Beauregard near Paul Johnson Road, right there along Highway 109, north of Barrow Loop Road there towards Jack Bennett Road there, this is the area that's under the gun right now. This is continuing to work its way towards the north-northeast. Ben, did you say at 30 miles per hour?
Let me put that warning back up, and we'll read that on. I believe it may have slowed down just a bit. Let me see what they had on it. It was northeast. Moving northeast at 20 miles an hour, so a little slower with that latest warning out. So again, if we put a track on that, again, that's one reason why these polygons or these warning boxes have been so small, is that the storms themselves have been moving kind of at a slow pace, and that gives more time for the storm to, well, number one, cause damage, but it also, pause here while I'm on.
Okay.
Television. Okay, there we go. All right, so that would put it near, basically where I read. There's just not a whole lot of towns in the path of this, so it kind of limits us to, about 11 o'clock. It'll be near Fields, and then if it holds together near the eastern part of Bivens, and it looks like it may stay just east of Bancroft. I know Bancroft's kind of on the left side of that warning box, and I'll take this off so you can see where the warnings extend. But again, right along that line, Bivens and Bancroft. Does not at this point include Singer, but we will see what happens with the storm as it progresses off to the north. So it's a storm that's had a history of damage, and again, that's why we can't take it lightly, even though it may not be looking quite as clear on some of our products that it's actually on the ground. And I'll go back over to this debris detector product. Again, this is showing where if we were to see anything being lofted debris-wise from it, not getting anything, too stand outish, so to speak, as yes, we can say with certainty that this is producing damage. This would show if we were to see, tree limbs being lofted by the tornado, and we're not really seeing that as clearly as we were earlier when we had obvious signs that this was on the ground. So I'll go back over to the radar product again. This is the reflectivity product, and you'll see right now, again, very heavy rain within this and a lot of lightning. So again, obscured by rain, if this is producing a tornado, it's going to be very hard to see because you're not going to have that visual on it at this point. And that's what's been happening all along, is that these storms have been rain-wrapped, the ones that did produce the damage a little earlier. Right now, we're still seeing a lot more heavy rain, about to be moving back into the Beaumont area. And I was just looking earlier, we talked earlier about the potential that we could see some street flooding out of these downpours. And right now, we do currently have a flash flood warning out for much of the Beaumont area until 1:30. They're saying that so far they've had 2 to 4 inches of rain fall in a short period of time, and that's caused some rises in the creeks and streams and bayous in those areas, and they're including Beaumont and Vidor and those areas in that flash flood warning until 1:30. So that may be something else that we have to deal with, especially if this line slows down. But Futurecast has been doing a pretty good job at keeping things moving along this afternoon. So I'd only think maybe about an hour or two of actually having to see the heaviest rainfall. Of course, we do know that if we get an hour or two of heavy rain, that's enough here in the Lake Charles area to cause problems for us in the form of some street flooding. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on as well. I was going to see if I could pull up the Futurecast to see how things had progressed along, but let's see, keep going down here. I'll see if I can get to it, and we'll see how this is lining up with the radar, because we can get an idea kind of timeline wise on how this is going to affect our area. Doing pretty good now. It's showing those cells over northwestern Calcasieu. So we'll put this into motion. This is around noon, and it's still showing some more of those developing cells forming ahead of the line. So that's going to put us right at the noon hour with that line approaching the Sabine River, and then 1 o'clock basically right over us with some of that heavy rain. So there could be a potential that we could have some flash flooding, very high rain rates with that storm, and then of course by 2 o'clock, there it is over the Jennings area. By 3, it's over toward Lafayette. So that's why I think maybe only an hour or two of some of the heaviest rain, and then it's on off toward our east. By 4 o'clock, that line is pushing east of Lafayette. So that, again, we're talking more about that main squall line of thunderstorms as opposed to these individual storms that are over us now. All that will eventually get nudged east with time as this front moves into our area and eventually clears things out, Jacob. So right now, obviously, the heightened threat is where we have that tornado warning out for southwestern Beauregard Parish, but I know Beauregard encompasses a large area, and it does not include at this point DeRidder. It does not include at this point Maryville or Sugartown or Singer, but it is Singer. We'll have to watch it closely, really kind of between Maryville and Singer if this thing continues to track off toward the north-northeast. Going to put it just to the east of Bancroft here shortly, and again crossing near that juncture of Highway 109 and LA 389. So that's where it will be moving here shortly. So for those areas in the Fields area, that's where we have the possibility of a tornado right now moving northeast at 20 miles an hour. And you can see on the velocities here, again, nothing too defined as far as the tightness in the circulation, but we are seeing, some indications here that there is some rotation still possible. If anything, it's not looking like it's getting any tighter, so that could be a good sign that maybe we're not seeing, those indications of this storm strengthening at this point. If anything, it looks like it may be spreading out the rotation a bit more, meaning that the rotation in the atmosphere not coming together quite as tight over one particular area. So that could be a sign that we're not getting those signatures as clear if this is actually still on the ground at this moment. But certainly you got to take that as if it could be, simply because you're not going to have the visuals from this because it's rain wrapped. You're not going to have those abilities to be able to see if this is actually producing a tornado on the ground, Jacob.
The National Weather Service, this has been about 10 minutes ago, so this was at 10:35, but official National Weather Service observations do report a tornado that was on the ground. At least radar observed tornado debris signature. So what that means is that we're dealing with debris being lofted up in the air. It's being detected by the radar. So this hasn't been confirmed by a spotter like it was across portions of Texas, but rather this is a radar confirmed tornado. Right now, as we took a look at those velocities, the good news is we're not seeing nearly the amount of rotation that we were. Now, there's still signs of broad rotation, very strong winds regardless. Some of these velocities probably upwards of 60 to 70 miles per hour, but we're not seeing that tight coupling feature that we were say around 10:35. It was very brief. It wasn't that long kind of quick burst and then kind of blow up of the correlation coefficients, but instead very broad out there right now. Hopefully that's good. Still a little bit of rotation right there along Highway 109 just to the south and west of Field. So if you live in that community, make sure to go ahead and be in your safe shelter. Right now, not a confirmed tornado on the ground. It was radar indicated, but there was at least a debris signature that was lofted about 15 minutes ago or so. There's still some areas of broad rotation. Here's a live look at the correlation coefficients or debris signature, and nothing really jumping off the page. If you go back just put it right around 10:35, if you will, please, Ben. And there was a little bit of a blip, and I think that's what the National Weather Service saw. Maybe a little bit after that, then. Yeah, right there along Highway 109, maybe right there, just north. Or just to the south of 109 there near Barrow Loop towards Carter Settlement Smith Cemetery Road. And then as you can see, it lifted off towards the north just a little bit there across 109 and then quickly dissipated. And that's kind of the nature of a quick little spin up. It's not what we saw as it moved across portions of southeast Texas where it was on the ground for a prolonged period of time. And this, of course, is the same storm that we've been tracking all morning long. Meteorologist Ben Terry started tracking it this morning on 7 News Sunrise. It was over the open waters of the Gulf as a water spout, and now it's moved across portions of southeast Texas, and now it's into southwest Louisiana with a tornado warning until 11:15 this morning. Lots of lightning still associated with it, not seeing that clear defined hook that we once were. Hopefully that's a good sign that's going to continue. Of course, we've been talking about how it's a little bit more linear, and hopefully that's going to be the case moving forward over the next little bit, that we're going to see that it's going to continue to kind of broaden out. Maybe we can get rid of these warnings and get you back to your regular scheduled programming. But for at least for now, for the next 20 minutes or so, or actually a little bit longer than that, 15, add 20, add 10, so 25 minutes or so, we're going to be with you unless they drop this warning. But still, areas of broad rotation going to have to be watched. Lots of lightning associated with this. If you do have any reports, please, by all means, go ahead and send those in if it's safe. If you live in the Starks community, that we've got some more heavy rain beginning to push closer to the area, so that's something we're going to have to watch. But the tornado threat, at least for you in Starks, as well as Calcasieu, being limited now. Here's a live look across Orange. Lots of low clouds beginning to move rapidly. Not seeing much in the way of any lowerings or anything like that. That's good news. Hopefully that will continue for us as well. Hopefully it'll just be more of a straight line wind threat if we're going to see anything. But here's a live look closer. South Lake Charles. Lots of fast moving clouds. Lots of wind shear in the upper levels. That's what's allowing these storms to spin a little bit as they continue to work their way across the area. This is looking back towards the southwest. Here's the latest on the wind reports right now. Gusts upwards of 12 back out of the south, 76 degrees that temperature. But expect these winds to pick up, especially as that line continues to approach from the west. And here's the latest from those winds. That's ahead of that front there in Beaumont, 30 miles per hour out of the south. Here across much of southwest Louisiana, though, 10, 15, gusts upwards of 20 to, say, 25 at times. So not nearly as strong, but that's going to be the story for us tomorrow. Those winds really going to begin to crank up behind that cold front, and we'll see those gusts upwards of, say, 40 at times potentially for tomorrow. Now, here's the latest on, let's reset things across southwest Louisiana. If you're watching from Calcasieu, Jeff Davis, back towards Cameron, all clear. No issues at the moment. Back towards Allen, still remaining clear. Vernon, same for you, is the far southwestern sections of Beauregard that we're having to continue to watch near the Fields community lifting towards the north. Now, this squall line is continuing to work its way in from the west, and there are some kinks in there, and that's not what you like to see because it could induce a quick spin up, but at least there's no tornado warnings on those at the moment. By far, the most intense feature is pushing through Beaumont right now. It'll be interesting to see if their winds spike up a little bit as this gust front does continue to work its way through, but it's got a bowing feature on that, and that is what's allowing us to see those severe thunderstorm warnings being issued. Some gusts upwards of, say, 60 miles per hour at times. But once again, that tornado warning until 11:15 this morning, that does include the Fields community lifting towards the north. DeRitter, you're not in that right now at the current moment. So I'm going to see what they're doing. They've canceled the severe thunderstorm warning. They've issued a severe thunderstorm warning, for Hardin, Jasper, Jefferson, Newton, and Orange, and they've also tagged the potential for a tornado to be in that. So that's that new system that you're seeing that's north of that bowing feature here on the radar. That is now until 11:45, so kind of on the tail end of that, but you can see that little bit of a kink in there. That's what I'm talking about. That's where we could be dealing with the potential of a brief spin-up tornado. If you want to pop up those velocities, we'll take a look at that as well. Meteorologist Ben Terry continuing to track this with me this morning. Definitely some signs of potential broad rotation. There's a couple areas just north of Beaumont now. More interesting feature, you can see kind of a spiking here and there, and that's going to be the nature of these particular tornadoes if we see some. Here's your Beaumont sky cam, though. Lots of heavy rain if you're trying to find a tornado, if there is a tornado warning issued, you're not going to see it. This is what you're going to see. A wall of rain continuing to push into you, and that's why we tell you, don't go out there and try to find it. It's not going to be visible. It's not one of those classic supercells that you'll see across portions of Oklahoma where you'll see it for miles to come. It's not going to be that type. It's going to be rain-wrapped for sure. Now, here, of course, is that latest on the tornado warning. That goes out until 11:15, but this is the whole main line. There's several little kinks that we're going to continue to be tracking. There's also lots of lightning beginning to pulse back up. There's some kinks back in this particular area as well. I didn't see any evidence of rotation when we took at velocities here in just a moment. I still don't see a whole lot, even across the tornado warned area. Very broad at the moment. You can still see some red and greens trying to touch one another, but it's definitely not nearly as tight as what it once was. But there's a few areas where some red and greens coming together. Near Silsby, there was actually a little bit of a kind of a brief, it looked like a little pop-up. That could be just...
Yeah, I think that one just kind of popped up and went unwarned there, but that just shows you how quickly we can get these little spin-ups. And that was north of Silsby about, let's see, about 15 minutes ago. That was about 10:45 there. So it looked like something did spin up quickly or possibly spin up quickly. Now this is looking higher up in the atmosphere, so obviously it's not indicating that anything touched down at that distance, but it does show that there's a lot of rotation going on in the lower levels of the atmosphere that could cause that, and that would be more so along that squall line or that main line of thunderstorms where that occurred. So that's why we still have to be mindful that even we get past these little individual storms that has a higher potential of a tornado, obviously with these supercells, but even along that line, we can still get a spin up that could occur very briefly and move through our area. So again, that's just an indication there of the type of setup that we have in the atmosphere. And again, Beaumont getting clobbered with the heavy rain now. They're going to getting pretty much washed out by the rainfall, but a lot of lightning still within this line, and this will be the finale once this moves in and through our area. Once what is moving through Beaumont now crosses over into southwest Louisiana, that will be basically bringing an end to our severe threat this afternoon. That's why we only have a few more hours to go. I would say between now and about maybe 2 or 3 o'clock at the latest for our eastern parishes of dealing with this severe threat that we have across southwest Louisiana. It does look like they took Calcasieu Parish out of that warning. Now we just have Beauregard in that tornado warning. I'm looking at the latest that we have here. At 10:56, severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located over fields moving northeast at 20 miles per hour. And it's saying that this is going to still possibly be producing a tornado. Radar indicated at this point, and they just updated the polygon here. So let me read and see what they have on the latest with this one. It goes till 11:15. They're saying that this will be around Bivens at 11:15. So, again, a very rural portion of Beauregard Parish. Nonetheless, some folks do live out this way, so we want to give you that heads up. Again, right now, if there is a tornado, it's over fields moving northeast at 20 miles per hour. So you need to make sure you're in that center room, away from windows, a mobile home, not where you want to be. And again, that's where you want to be, away from those windows and exterior portions of your home if possible. If this is lofting debris around, that's where we're seeing that possibility. If nothing else, some damaging winds here. Right now, radar showing, again, this is looking a little higher up from ground level, but some 60, 66 mile per hour winds. And let's see, went off, I can't, oh, okay, let's see. Let's see, Jacob's going to check something here on our messaging system to see if we have any confirmations of damage in that area. But we are still, again, tracking this severe storm, possible getting a report from our newsroom of a tornado over fields. And again, that was from our newsroom. We'll try to see if we can get more on that. It was kind of a vague message there, so I'm not sure exactly if that is something that we're getting calls about in the newsroom. If you could just let us know there in the chat, that would be great of what that report consisted of. But again, possibly seeing a tornado around the fields area, radar indicating that. Again, Weather Service is going to extend this warning out now. Because of that, at this point in time, the warning is set to expire at 11:15 over portions of southwestern Beauregard Parish. And again, we're just still getting a lot of reports in. And, one of the things, Jacob, that we fight with we kind of like the fact this is not moving through a highly populated area, and that's one of the problems we get with these rural storms is that we just don't have a lot of eyes on the ground, a lot of reports, and they're more sparse to come in when you have something of this nature out in our viewing area. We still want to know what's going on. We don't want you, obviously, to go out in the storm. That's the last thing we want to do for you, is to put you in any danger, to know if this is actually producing a tornado on the ground or not. So we're having to kind of go by some reports that we're getting from the Weather Service. Of course, radar, our friend in these situations, because of the fact that, there's a lot of rain-wrapped air, rain-wrapped around this circulation, so you're not going to be able to clearly see what's happening here. But you don't have anything new right on that. No confirmation that there's one on the ground. We're just looking at radar indications here of rotation. And we're still seeing some notches here along this line. So again, obviously, storm is moving into an environment that this thing could still sort of wrap up, maybe produce a tornado without a whole lot of notice. But again, if we were to see rotation again right around the fields area, some rotate. Let me go back a couple of frames here. Yeah, I guess we could still be seeing something in this particular area. This is going to be right over 389. You're in that warning box right there. So I'll put some roads here for you and let you know where this may be affecting you. Clay Pit Road, Charles Road, Quinn Road, 389, some of those areas, Brushy Road to your east there. And this is going to be paralleling 109, may even eventually cross back over 109 or at least parallel it. So west to Tower Road, you see Turkey Road, Raymond Spikes Road, Old Salem Road. Those areas all in the potential path, or rather path, of this possible tornado as it tracks off to the northeast about 20 miles an hour, according to the National Weather Service. Again, that warning goes out for another 15 minutes or so. Right now, Singer, you're not in the official warning box. You're kind of out of it. And if it continues on this particular track, and we'll put this into motion, it's going to go to your west. It's almost moving due north now. If you look at the velocities and the direction this is moving, I'll pause it here. You can see it's almost moving toward the due north. So we'll see if they adjust anything on their end as far as the direction of the rotation. But for sure, if we're seeing anything, it'd be right here around the fields area now, crossing north of 389. Now it'd be north of 389, and where this possible tornado is at to the east here of Boosery Road, Brushy Road, Carr Pond Road, and those areas east of 389. East of the northern fork of 389. 389 kind of goes west and east, and then it makes a fork there south of Bancroft and starts going more north and south. So it's going to be kind of in between that fork, moving its way toward the north. Indications, though, are on the velocities that it looks like it may be losing a little bit of circulation here, or a little bit of the couplet, a little weaker than it was earlier. Still could be producing some damaging winds. Again, this is the velocity overall, and you can see where they're still seeing at least some 60-plus mile-per-hour winds. And again, that's enough to do damage, especially to mobile homes, structures that aren't well built. Obviously, a lot of folks are still also dealing with damage from the hurricanes. You may not have quite as a well sustained structure as you would have had otherwise. And again, that's going to likely even create more complications to folks who are trying to still recover from Hurricane Laura. There's obviously weakened homes and homes that don't have quite as much, I guess the right term here is sustainability from severe storms. And again, that's another reason why you need to be in that safe place. Things getting blown around and could still cause damage. But better on the sense that we're not seeing the circulation as tightly wound, and that is one thing that we'll keep an eye on as this storm tracks off to the northeast about 20 miles an hour. Jacob?
Yeah, just scrolling through Facebook, taking a look at some pictures there. When it was back across southeast Texas, there was a lot of pictures of tornadoes on the ground, large tornadoes. And remember, we told you that there was a large multi-vortex tornado as it crossed I-10 and moved up towards the Deweyville vicinity. That's when we first really started tracking it here for southwest Louisiana. But taking a look at the current velocities that we're seeing right now, there is some positive news in the fact that we aren't tracking nearly the tight couplet that we once were when it was back across southeast Texas. I've also seen a couple of Facebook messages asking us about the rest of southwest Louisiana, and here's a look at what's going on. If you live across portions of Allen back into Jeff Davis, Calcasieu, as well as Cameron, there's no severe weather going on right now, including Vernon. There's no severe weather. If you live in Starks, that tornado warning is now out of your area. It's not there any longer. In fact, the only tornado warning we're tracking right now is until 11:15, and that is for western sections of Beauregard. As Ben's been mentioning, over pretty much a rural area, not really tracking a lot of people living there, but a few people do, and that's why we're with you, and that's why we're going to be with you at least for the next 10 minutes. We'll see if they do anything. There's signs of brief rotation that pop up. And now on that southern section of that bend, it looks like there might be a little bit of a more of a couplet. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But look at the line.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a new severe thunderstorm warning. They've actually extended that out now into western Calcasieu, and that's going to be for that bowing out there from what's moving through Beaumont now. So if you're getting that alert on your phone, new severe thunderstorm warning out until 11:30 for the Vinton area into the western parts of Calcasieu Parish. But Jacob, you were asking about the bowing. Where did you want me to go?
Well, it looks like the latest radar scanner was kind of going, but right there along the LA 109 symbol right there, it looks like there might be another little bit of a kink that tried to kind of form, but it's not there as much anymore. And we're going to have to keep an eye on this storm. It kind of looks now more like a very broad rotation moving towards the field vicinity, and what I mean by that is kind of like right in this area here. There may be a wall cloud out there, but I wouldn't see anything that's signaling a strong area of potential rotation, at least in terms of a tornado actually on the ground. But nonetheless, there is a tornado warning until 11:15 for that particular storm. Looking at the winds across the rest of southwest Louisiana, there's not anything that we're looking at across the rest of the area. So there's no severe thunderstorm warnings east of I-10 there in Lake Charles, but there is that one that we just talked about just a moment ago that Ben just alluded to with that Boeing segment. You can see how it's really pushing out, and what that means is there's a strong surge of wind out ahead of this that just moved through Beaumont, and we were seeing some 30-40 mile per hour gusts, but these gusts are capable of reaching at least 60 miles per hour. Looks like it's just to the west of Vinton at the moment, but that goes until 11:30 this morning.
Yeah, I was reading the text here. They're saying moving northeast at 45, 60 mile an hour wind gusts. They're saying possibly quarter-size hail, and this one's going to be along I-10 in Texas, but they're giving some mile markers. I'm not even going to read that for you because that doesn't give you any sort of reference point, but they're saying between mile marker 1 and mile marker 8 if you're heading over into Louisiana. So it's kind of riding along I-10 at this point. So obviously if you live in Orange, if you live in areas right along the Sabine River over into Louisiana before you get to Vinton, this could possibly produce some damaging winds. And this is not associated with a tornado per se, but it's certainly some straight line wind damage that could be affiliated with this cluster of the thunderstorm that is moving east now. It's moving northeast at 45 miles per hour, so it's moving along very quickly. These storms along the squall line moving a lot faster than we were seeing with these cells that were producing the tornadoes earlier. They were moving at about 20 miles an hour, so this line's moving a lot faster to the east. Good in the sense that we'll get it on through here quicker and hopefully reduce that severe threat sooner rather than later, but until it arrives, a very touch-and-go situation here over the next couple of hours as this crosses over into southwest Louisiana. And again, that's the bowed-out line that we're tracking. You don't like to see that because it does mean that there likely is some damaging winds that are coming out of that portion of the storm. So that's what we'll be pushing into Calcasieu Parish here within the next 20 to 30 minutes. It's going to be moving quickly on into areas like Orange and then over toward Vinton, Edgerly, and those areas. Over Starks as well, again hit by more high wind and heavy rainfall. I got the lightning turned off, but I'll also show you that there's still a lot of lightning within this as well. Obviously not as many strikes as we were seeing in those supercells that were producing the tornado, but even up into Beauregard Parish, one of the things we watch for in storms are the lightning strikes and the number of lightning strikes. And there's still a good number of those clustered across portions of southwestern Beauregard Parish, right around Bancroft and Bivens. The lightning counter is still pretty good there for you. In fact, we may even be seeing the lightning counter start to go up again just west of Fields, and so that could be indications the storm is trying to cycle back up again. I know Jacob was pointing out what looked to him like and to me like maybe some weak rotation, if nothing else, probably a wall cloud like he mentioned there, moving back over Fields, and that's going to be producing a lot of torrential rain, cloud-to-ground lightning, and maybe some straight-line winds, if nothing else, but certainly we're not seeing a tight rotation, which is what we look for when we're trying to pinpoint where we're getting a possible tornado. Right now, the Weather Service is keeping that warning out for about another 6 minutes on the storm that was producing radar indications of a tornado. It moved north of Fields. This was the parent circulation. Now you can see it all the way up to about the Bivens area. If we're getting anything out of that, still some rotation with that just to the east of Fields. This is going to be just east of Highway 389. Moving toward the northeast about 20 miles an hour. May have picked up a little bit more speed than that from that warning earlier, but Spring Branch Road and those areas, eventually crossing Highway 110, LA 110 west of Singer, really between Singer and Maryville is where this will be crossing if it does continue to hold together. And that's one of the things that we'll have to keep an eye on. They'll make that determination here within the next 5 minutes if they're going to extend this tornado warning again or just watch it for the time being. But Jacob, still certainly some rotation here, not as clearly defined, but evidence here that we're still seeing a pretty wicked storm across western portions of Beauregard Parish. If nothing else, this is the area that we'll have to keep an eye on closely because we're still seeing, and I'll go back over and see if we're getting anything on the correlation coefficient, which is that debris tracker. We're obviously not seeing a debris ball, which is good, which indicates we're not getting anything from what is radar showing lofted debris in the atmosphere because this is a piney part of our area. A lot of pine trees up in this portion of Beauregard Parish, things not showing up as far as debris being detected, which is one of the good signs, but still seeing some rotation with this, albeit not quite as clearly cut as we were seeing earlier, which is good. But possibly still producing some rotating thunderstorms in this area that could drop a tornado without a whole lot of notice, and that's what makes it even more difficult when you start getting into these squall line situations and these thunderstorm clusters. It allows us to not be able to see things quite as clearly when things develop. They tend to occur quickly with these spin-ups, especially with what we're seeing now moving out of the Beaumont area. That's why we have to stay on alert. Even if we don't have a tornado warning for your area, you have to almost treat this line as if it could produce one even without a warning. And that's one thing I'm sure they've tagged some of these severe thunderstorm warnings with is the possibility that we could see perhaps a spin-up tornado without a whole lot of notice. And it does show I'm reading the tag on this warning, for instance, the one that's over in Texas. It says, remain alert for a possible tornado. Tornadoes can develop quickly from severe thunderstorms. If you spot a tornado, go to a small central room in a sturdy structure away from windows. And not a lot of people here in southwest Louisiana, Jacob, have storm cellars. It's not something that we have here. Our water table does not allow us to dig deep in the ground, so you don't have a lot of folks with basements in their homes. What you do have, if you have a house, you have a room that's likely away from the windows, whether it's the bathroom or a closet. That's where you want to be, away from windows. Typically, when you see tornado damage to homes, what's left of the home? It's the bathroom usually, because that's the room that's farthest away from the outside of the walls, and you've got plumbing that's attached into the ground. That's where you want to be, near the toilet or the bathtubs, anything that's going to give you that extra bit of protection from not only the exterior of your home, but what would likely not get lofted in the air and blown away. And that's usually things that are tied down to the plumbing, whether it's a sink or a toilet or a bathtub. But take something in there with you, like a bicycle helmet or a mattress. Cover your head with that. Flying debris is the number one reason why people die in tornadoes. If you look at tornado deaths and the reason for why people die in storms, it's blunt force trauma from flying debris, whether it's a tree branch, a car, or even just a 2x4 can be lofted like a missile, and that's why people die in tornadoes. It's the blunt force trauma. So if you can find something to protect your head, you have a higher chance of survival if you are in a tornado, because unfortunately not everyone has the luxury of getting to a sturdy structure. I know a lot of people live in mobile homes. These storms pop up on you quickly. It can sometimes be too late to try to get to a safe structure. So you have to do what you can with what you have to protect yourself from the flying debris out of this. And again, that's going to be for areas in the warning now. Anything new, Jacob, on this? I've heard the chimes going off a couple of times in the chat on the warnings. It could be from...
Yeah, they're just kind of talking about the marine warning now for some of those stronger winds. But I was looking at I pulled the radar north on Max 2 and was looking from the Fort Polk radar, because we're kind of getting in the middle there across central portions of Beauregard. And there were some signs of some weak rotation still there, as evident as Ben was showing. We've also seen kind of an uptick in that lightning count. So that's something that we're keeping a very close eye on as well. Of course, there's a few little kinks and appendages, but it definitely looks like the storm itself is kind of stretching out just a little bit, which is good news. It's not the same the same supercell that we're seeing. There's still definitely a little bit of broad rotation, at least.
Yeah, there's flipping radars, but that's the Fort Polk radar, and you can see obviously a little bit better here, and it's hard sometimes for us to get the. Let me see if I can take Lake Charles off. There we go.
They just issued another severe thunderstorm warning for Jefferson, Orange, and Cameron until 11:45.
Yeah, and it does look like the warning was allowed to expire for this in Beauregard. The warning was dropped. We'll see if they plan on reissuing that, or at this point, if we're going to just give them a minute to figure out what's going on here with that cell, because we are still seeing some rotation at this point in time. This is my microphone. Okay, there we go. We're not seeing any new warning out on it at this point, but that's the cell that we'll have to continue to watch if the Weather Service decides to reissue that again. It's going to be for that area of Beauregard Parish. We'll probably just stay with you for another minute or two just so we can give them a chance at the Weather Service to decide how they want to handle that storm in Beauregard, because of the fact that they may try to reissue something, hopefully just a severe thunderstorm warning, now that we're not getting that clear, tight couplet. But one of the things, Jacob, that we'll have to watch, the leading edge here, you see that little bowing out right there? Again, you don't like to see those little appendages, because sometimes that can allow for spin-ups to occur. There's a little bit of rotation, maybe trying to wrap up there to the northeast of Fields. Again, no tornado with this at the moment, but if you live along 109 there, West Tower Road, Smith Loop Road, again, we are seeing likely, if nothing else, you're seeing some rotation above ground level with this as it moves its way toward the north and to the east. Still a very wicked-looking cell here, a strong storm that will have to be monitored closely over the next several minutes as it tracks off to the northeast. But currently at the moment, and I do expect there to at least be a severe thunderstorm warning come back out on this cell for Beauregard. You're not in that tornado warning at this time. It has been allowed to expire as of 10:15. The newest warnings that we have, and I'll go over those while we kind of iron things out and give the folks at the Weather Service a chance to decide what to do about Beauregard. We'll take a look at what's happening here in southeast Texas. We have that severe thunderstorm warning out now for western portions of Calcasieu Parish, includes you in Vinton. This cell is moving toward Orange with 60-plus mile-an-hour wind gusts, perhaps some hail, quarter-size hail, but the damaging wind threat, it will be primarily what we are going to see out of this. I'm going to try to flip the camera back over. I was showing it earlier, kind of multitasking here on the fly to try to get that orange camera back up. Now, where this camera is located is a little bit east of Orange. It's actually a little bit closer to the Sabine River. So you're going to be outrunning the storm by just a bit, but I'll throw it back up for you. This is looking I-10 toward the east. Where this is actually located, if you're familiar with it, is the Horseman's Western Store, which is over in Orange County, a little bit east of Orange proper, but it does show, again, generally what's happening in the atmosphere as this severe line approaches, and I'll go back over to Skycam, and that's what we're seeing now in the atmosphere. Low clouds, no rain at the moment. It looks like it's still just to your west there of this particular camera, but it will be moving in shortly, and those winds are probably going to be picking up here as that severe storm approaches from the west. Right now, again, just to kind of reset things for you, we are tracking multiple storms, not just one, multiple storms that are producing possible tornadoes. At the moment, no warnings out, but we have numerous severe thunderstorm warnings now as of 11:18 that are pushing back toward the Sabine River, back toward Orange, and then back up toward the Sabine River and Beauregard Parish. One very strong thunderstorm that was warned earlier for a possible tornado. That warning for you has been dropped. Nonetheless, we do still have a lot of lightning within this cell near Bivens and just to the north of Fields. Not seeing at this moment any tight couplets of rotation, which is good. We're not seeing any signs of debris being lofted on our debris detector, but along this line, a tornado could possibly form, and that's one thing we're probably just going to have to live with, that possibility going on into this afternoon, midday afternoon, that anywhere along this line there could be a spin-up tornado without a whole lot of warning. So don't necessarily rely on the warning to give you a lot of advance notice. With a squall line feature like we're seeing now, we may be seeing things develop quickly, and it's one of the things that we'll be watching for as we head into midday. With that, I think we're going to, guys in the back, go ahead, and hopefully this is not going to mess you up too much, but since we don't have any current tornado warnings in effect, we're going to try to get you back to a little bit of regular programming. We'll probably continue this on our Facebook, though, for folks to be able to track this. But currently, no tornado warnings out for our viewing area. We do have severe thunderstorm warnings and a line of strong storms that will be pushing in here over the course of the next hour. So just to kind of give us a little bit of a breather while we have a bit of a break, we're going to send you back to regular programming. If another tornado warning is issued, we will be right back on the air, so don't worry about us. We'll be here and get you through this afternoon. And of course, our newscast beginning at 11:30 with midday. We'll have another weather update for you then, and of course coming up on 7 News at noon. For meteorologist Jacob Durham, I'm meteorologist Ben Terry here in the Storm Center. We'll send you back to programming and get you back to more of your television shows and be back with on any more warnings if they're issued for our area.